Hello and welcome back to another week of meals. I have three for you this time around, starting off with a really simple chicken pesto pasta. I don't have any recipes per se for this particular week. I sort of just winged it, but they're pretty simple and easy to do. If I have a chance, I will link some similar recipes down below, but I'm starting off seasoning my boneless, skinless chicken thighs with some salt and pepper, some Italian seasonings. So I used oregano, parsley, thyme. We've got onion and garlic powder, and then I'm going to do a simple flip, and on the second side I'm just going to season with some salt and pepper to keep the herbs and spices a bit mild. Colin is not a huge fan of the spices, so just salt and pepper on the second side. Going to take the chicken to the preheated and oiled skillet. So I'm just going to put those in there to cook until they are fully done on the inside. Probably, depending on the thickness of your chicken, I think I probably cooked mine between 25 to 30 minutes in total, but you can see nice and brown as I lifted them up, so real nice color, and I'm just going to finish those until they're fully cooked. In the meantime, I'm just going to prep the pasta very simply with some jarred Classico pesto. I wanted to use a different kind of pasta other than spaghetti, but that's what I had. I probably would have used like a penne or something like that, but I just put a little bit of pesto into the pasta and that is pretty much done. To round out the meal, I'm just roasting a bit of veg here. We've got zucchini and some Roma tomatoes, so that is going to be a little tiny side roasted veg for the meal. So I'm just going to finish roasting those in the oven, and then I've also made like a garlic butter to put on the bread for some garlic bread on the side. So that's just melted butter with minced garlic just sitting on the side. Here's the finished veg. You see they've shrunken a lot, but the flavor is nice and sweet. And here's the finished dinner. Some veg, the pasta, that wonderfully moist chicken thigh, and then some sourdough bread with garlic butter that I finished in the air fryer. And that was our dinner for the first night of the week. And one last surprise, I had a craving for this Filipino dessert called Taho. It's basically like a tapioca pudding or tapioca balls like boba with some silken tofu in a brown sugar simple syrup. If you're interested in the recipe, let me know in the comments below and I'm happy to share with you. But that was my dessert for the evening. I wanted to use these Angus strip steaks that I got on clearance for $2 each. Amazing deal, at least here in California. So what I did for the first one was marinated in Yoshida's marinade because that's what Colin requested. That was not my initial plan, but he wanted the sauce on the steaks. So I'm just doing it here in this container. Ordinarily, I would do it in a Ziploc bag to make it nice, to make it easier and just to reduce the bit of air that's surrounding it. But I did not. I was low on my Ziploc supply and I didn't want to use my last bag, so I'm just doing this here in the container. And then I am going to butter my skillet. I think there's a little bit of olive oil in there. Anyway, I've greased it up and I'm going to cook the steak in this here. So that's the first one. Because of the high sugar content in the marinade, I turned the heat down a little bit lower because, you know, sugar can burn pretty quickly and I didn't want it to get too bitter. But that is the steak done, and I'm just going to set it aside to finish cooking under a bit of loose tinted foil, and then I'm going to sort of deglaze and clean the skillet so that I can prep it for the next steak. So once that's nice and cleaned, I'm just going to cook the second steak, very simply seasoned with salt and pepper. I made a bit of a boo-boo here and opened the wrong side of the pepper and got a huge bit of pepper on the steak. So I'm just moving it around, scraping some off. I mean, I'm not phased too much by it, since a lot of people do like blackened steaks, but yeah, so just scraping as much of it as I can off and leaving it in the pan. And then I am going to cook this to about medium through the inside. Going to add that to the foil tent, and then I'm going to deglaze and then make sort of a veggie accompaniment to go with it. So that's just chicken bouillon and water. I am going to scrape with my brand new silicone balloon whisk that I got for 10 cents at Walmart. And then I'm going to add some frozen spinach. So this is some spinach that I just stuck in the freezer, starting to go bad. I am pulling it out and just cooking as much of it as I can. It is going to wilt down a lot, so this is not a lot of veg, but it will make a nice accompaniment to the steak. So that's starting to defrost now and cook through. Again, we've got the chicken bouillon in there, so there's a bit of salt already. We have the scrapings of the salt and all that pepper that I accidentally dumped onto the steak. So this is going to be nice and seasoned. And I'm just now going to add a little bit of cream. This is heavy cream. I was thinking cream spinach, but it didn't really turn out so much like that. I wanted to keep it nice and simple though, so I have just a tiny bit of cream. And then in lieu of actually making like a blue cheese sauce for the steaks, which was my initial plan, I'm just adding a few little clumps of blue cheese in here to give the spinach a bit of that blue cheese flavor. So that is going to be plenty of flavor for me, and I think it really enhanced the spinach a lot and came together with the steak very nicely. And a bit of a taste as I do, and we are going to be ready to serve. And here is my plate with that beautiful medium strip steak, the spinach, and some leftover tomato soup that I had made the previous week. And then moving on to Rob's, he is a huge fan of blue cheese, so he added more blue cheese crumbles on top of his steak along with the spinach on the side. And then Colin's, we've got that teriyaki sort of Yoshida sweet marinated steak here. He ate half, and Rob finished the other half off, served with broccoli and rice. For the third meal, I decided I wanted to do some enchiladas, and so I am prepping the tortillas here. I am going to be using corn tortillas. These are white corn tortillas, and I had read in a recipe a long time ago that, if you give it a bit of a shallow fry on each side of the tortilla, they won't get as soggy. So I've been doing that ever since. I know you can sort of put the tortilla in the sauce and coat it and all of that stuff before you roll it up to put into the oven, but I found that they still got a bit soggy, and I don't like that mushy sort of texture. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking the tortillas, cooking them about 10 to 15 seconds on each side. This is just some neutral vegetable oil. I think this might be canola. So I'm just going to do this for all of the tortillas. This way it's sort of, I don't know the reasoning behind it, but I kind of feel like it creates a waterproof barrier between the tortilla and the sauce. But in any case, I'm going to continue cooking these until they're all nice and cooked in the oil. For the filling, I am using this leftover. We've got some pork, sort of carnitas, pre-seasoned that a neighbor gave us, and some cheddar cheese. I am going to spray the baking dish a bit so it doesn't stick too much to the bottom, and then I'm just going to fill them up with the pork and some cheese and roll it up and put it into the baking pan. There are those tortillas. They can be a bit warm because I didn't cover them. They were just fine to the touch, but just be careful as you're using and rolling the tortillas. That last one, I put a bunch of pork in and I ran out. So the very, very last tortilla, I'm just using some cheddar cheese on the inside, and that is going to be a singular cheese enchilada. For the sauce, I'm just using this red enchilada sauce, Las Palmas, that I got at the grocery store. I'm giving it a little bit of a stir since the thicker bits of the enchilada sauce kind of sank to the bottom. It's very watery. I don't mind it though, to be honest. I like the flavor of it. Maybe this is not a very good one, or maybe it is, I don't know. But I just bought this because I had used it before and I liked the way it tasted. So I'm just going to give that a douse of the enchilada sauce on top of the rolled tortillas with the filling, and then that is going to get topped with some cheese and some green onions, and then into the oven. Here are those leftover green onions that I used from a previous meal that I can't remember what I used them for. I would put some black olives on here as well if I had them, but I did not. So this is pretty much it for the enchiladas, and they're just going to go into the oven until the cheese is nice and melted. And in the meantime, I'm going to make a little side salad here of just tomato and avocado. I don't season it at all. I think it's perfect the way it is, and it balances the enchiladas that sometimes can be a bit salty. So I'm just taking the Roma tomatoes, dicing them up. I have made this salad before with some added hearts of palm, but I'm keeping it really simple tonight with just the tomatoes and the avocado. Just going to remove some of the yucky bits here and then dice up the avocado and scoop it into the dish. And I realized I didn't really dice these, I just kind of sliced them, so I'm just cutting them here in my hand. Please don't try this at home. I am just a little bit of a crazy home cook, so I'm just doing it very carefully this way. Very nice and soft, but yeah, I don't recommend that you do that. And then I'm just giving that a toss. I'm not using any acid on this at all. I think the acid from the tomato is just fine, and it's not going to sit for very long, but that is the salad done. And once the cheese is all melty, the enchiladas are done. And there you go. That was our dinner for the evening. Just going to plate it up here. The enchilada, the corn tortillas did not get too soggy, as I mentioned. So I really like that tip of giving the tortillas a bit of a fry before rolling them and putting them into the oven. So just serving with side salad, and there is that sour cream that I like to add. And that was our dinner for the next night. I hope you enjoyed the meals for this week. I really appreciate you stopping by to share in what our family had for dinner. I will see you in the next video. Take care until then.